So, when people talk about investing in Africa, they normally talk about the same places or same countries: Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana. But what about the regions and the countries we rarely hear about? The ones often written off as too complex or just plain misunderstood. That's the narrative that our next guest, Loic Mackosso, is challenging. Born in France and raised in Congo, Loic is now the founder of Aries Energy, where he's investing in one of the most overlooked regions in the world, Central Africa. After years of being an advisor to investors in foreign companies looking to enter that region, Loic made a really bold move. He became an investor himself, backing projects in energy and mining and proving that the opportunity in that region is real. So here's the truth. Building in Central Africa is not simple. It takes patience, it takes deep local knowledge, and it takes sometimes years to really understand how the system works.
Definitely, I can say that it took me 20 years to have a perfect understanding of this country and the business environment. 20 years.
Wow.
Now I'm more confident.
So on this episode of Black Borderless, we're talking to Loic about what it really takes to build in that region, especially for diaspora. What investment opportunities exist in that region? And then we ask a really bold question, which is that, is Central Africa the next investment frontier on the continent? Watch this episode on Black and Borderless.
Do you speak French, Kate?
I understand it 70% of the way because I'm actually Anglophone Cameroonian.
Maybe we can start this interview in French. What do you think?
We can, actually. I'll just respond in English, but I can understand. Okay, so here's the thing with my French, right? It's very funny. I don't understand French with a French accent, with a like Parisian French accent. I understand French with an African accent.
Si je te parle en français maintenant, tu ne comprends pas, c'est ça?
Non, je comprends, parce que ça c'est avec un accent parisien. Non, c'est avec un accent africain un peu. C'est un peu mélangé, n'est-ce pas?
Alors, l'accent parisien, c'est tu sais, je viens de Paris, où j'habite, dans le 13e.
Yeah, when you start talking like that, I get lost because, like I said, I'm used to talking to my in-laws all the time, and they talk to me in French just for fun, so I can to throw me off sometimes. But it's helped me a lot. So
Wow.
I'm advanced, but not fluent.
I've been talking to many French-speaking podcasts. So, I would say that that's my first time talking to an English-speaking podcast. So I hope that I will be as relevant as I am in French.
I'm sure you will be. And in the event that you cannot express something in English, if you say it in French, I'm sure more than likely I will understand. So again, welcome. Let's get right into it. When people in Africa think about, the return to Africa, they often think about Ghana, right? As you know, especially in the Anglophone diaspora, we're used to hearing stories about Ghana and Nigeria and Dirty December. Why do you think that, let's start with Francophone Africa, needs to be a part of the returnee and the diaspora engagement conversation?
Well, I think that's what makes the difference is the narrative. I'm from Congo. We do speak English, French here. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an investment banker and investor as well. And when you read the press, the articles, etc., you see a lot about what you say about African billionaires. Most of them are from Ghana or Nigeria, and sometimes Ivory Coast. But I think that we are suffering from a wrong narrative when it comes to Central Africa. I'm not sure that you could mention the name of a famous, successful Central African entrepreneur. You see, because I'm saying that because I'm an entrepreneur. So my role models, most of them are from Nigeria or Ghana. So I think that those who are abroad, people from the diaspora, when they hear stories, most of the stories they hear about are from Nigeria or the English-speaking countries of the continent. And our challenge here is to improve the narrative, tell a lot about Central Africa region, because we have a lot of opportunities here, and we have the chance to build a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem in this country as well. So we need to change the narrative.
Absolutely. So you touched on a good point, which is that most people cannot name an entrepreneur from Central Africa, from, or as we can call it, Central Francophone, French-speaking Africa, right? How much do you think that's caused by the fact that even in entertainment, we see that Nigerian artists have gone global and Ghana to a lesser extent. Do you think that's part of the reason why is that maybe like Central Africa entertainment hasn't gone as global as entertainment from Nigeria and other parts of Anglophone Africa?
Well, I won't say that. The we say you mentioned the artists, right? Some of them have turned global. In DRC, we have Kofi Lomide. Kofi
Coffee.
Lomide is a well renowned artist, and I think that in the US, many people know him. That's not the reason I would say, because those countries have built the narrative. When you see Ghana or Nigeria, you mentioned the dirty December. In Ghana, they have the year of return.
Hmm.
They have they have a dedicated strategy to lure people from their diaspora, because they are well aware that they have they may have the knowledge, they may have the resources, the financial resources to build the respective countries. So they have built a strategy in order to attract people from the diaspora.
Absolutely, absolutely. So mainly it's about the engagement, really, and their efforts to kind of brand their engagement with the diaspora through Deci December, the year of return, and things like that. So let's go
And
back to talk. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would like to mention something. Um, they have built their narrative.
Mhm.
They are not living under someone else's narrative. They have built the narrative. Here in Central Africa, what we hear about our countries are corruption-plagued countries.
Mhm.
That's what we hear about Central Africa. In Nigeria or Ghana, they have built their narrative. That's, I think, makes a difference.
Okay, I mean that's a good point, right? That Central Africa has this, perception of being um, you know, having corrupt maybe regimes. But one could argue that let's take a country like Nigeria, right? Nigeria historically, and maybe even now, has a pretty, strong reputation for corruption. So what? So is the what is the changing thing, right? Because I mean, generally, that's like a continent.
Well, maybe I've never been to Nigeria,
Mhm.
but what I see is that you guys have the most dynamic entrepreneurs in Africa. That that I think makes the difference.
Mhm. 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 So because of the dynamism of entrepreneurs, it can kind of
Exactly,
override the corruption perception. And I think
exactly.
that's a good point for us to start about now you as an entrepreneur. So what is your goal as an entrepreneur given that you are investing in a part of the world that is seen as corrupt? How are you working to fight those um that perception or those stereotypes about Central Africa?
I think that the best way to demonstrate that we were right is to demonstrate success. I told you that we are currently investing. We are investing in mining. We are investing in electricity, power. We have many projects that on which we are working on, and those projects. Once we will have completed those projects, I think that would be the perfect. I think that it would be the perfect demonstration of success, and that this region worth investing.
So I think that good. Let's talk about some of those projects you're working on that you feel like would be these good case studies of successful investments in Central Africa. So tell me about like kind of the top three investments right now that Aries is working on, that your firm is working on.
We are working in the power sector. We Our goal is to build solar power station. So we have project ongoing. We are working in mining as well. We've just obtained a license, and now we are a copper license, and now we are currently investing. I could send you some pictures or video once we have completed the operations. But those are the main projects on which we are invested.
And and how do you solicit clients? So what is like your current clientele which part of the world do you kind of solicit most of your clientele at the moment? And which part of the world are you hoping to grow your clientele in? Where are most of your investors from?
When we started our business 15 years ago, we were acting as advisors. So we used to advise foreign and domestic companies on how to finance their project. And now our business model has shifted because now we're becoming investors. So we are currently identifying opportunities. We know that there are opportunities in the power sector right now. So we just obtained independent power producer license that will enable us to develop the project that I did mention before. So, but we used to work with Chinese investors. We used to work with European investors, and some investors we used to work with are from African countries. We did advise Nigerian companies here in Congo, but now we're turning in. Now we're becoming investors. We are expanding our scope of opportunities.
So you guys are becoming the investors. Are you still so the business model of actually advising companies trying to gain entry into that market is completely gone, right? You're basically focusing.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely, it's completely there. Now we are advising on our own project because we have created a new entity called Aries Energy. So
Mm-hmm.
Aries Energy will be in charge of developing the project. So I mentioned the power project or the mining project, and
Hmm.
once Aries Energy will need financing, Aries Energy will ask its sister company Aries Investment to raise funds and to develop the project to fund the project.
No, that's interesting. Why that shift? Why did you go from advising companies who are looking to invest in Central Africa to deciding that you, as your company, want to become an investor? What made you make that shift?
Because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm able to grab the opportunities. One day we did advise a company from France, and they came here because they wanted to build a water station. They did obtain the concession agreement with the government, and they tasked us to raise funds. We failed because for some reason that I won't mention here, but we did realize that they had nothing we could not have. I mean, we are on the ground here. We know the people, so we could easily get those type of agreement from the government, find technical partner, and find financial partners. So we decided that we could do that by ourselves. So we incorporated Aries Energies in order to develop our own project, and Aries Energy will enter into a contract with Aries Investment when it comes to raise funds.
To raise funds. That's interesting. So
Mhm.
I think that's a very, very like really inspiring story. Actually, this idea of a company that was initially kind of an advisory firm, right, for foreign companies looking
Uh-huh.
to enter the Central African region or to invest in that region, to then deciding that actually we, as a company, we a black owned, company run by
Definitely.
Congolese, need to invest directly as opposed to just being an advisor for foreigners to come in. So I think that's a very, very
Exactly.
interesting story.
Exactly.
And
So
how
now
does that make you feel? Like what did you feel like when you made that transition? Did you feel empowered? Was it kind of a scary idea for you initially?
I felt empowered because we've been working in the advisory space for 15 years, so we know who were the financial partners that we would need when it come to fund the project that we had within our portfolio. So yes, we felt empowered because we want to leave a strong legacy here in Congo and in Africa. We want uh, to turn Aries investment into one of the largest investment platform in Africa because we live in Central Africa region, which is where we have untapped opportunities. And
Mm.
given that region maybe has a wrong reputation, we want to demonstrate that we can do business in this place and make money as well and
Yeah.
develop the continent.
And what does that mean for your bottom line? So, I'm sure there are many people out there or many companies out there who are advisory firms to foreign companies trying to enter Africa who may want to make the same transition as you into now becoming investors themselves in those regions. Would you say that your profit margins have increased making that transition, or you're still trying to kind of figure it out?
No, definitely the profit margin will increase because we are working on huge projects, and definitely the profit margin will increase. Now we are operating ourselves, so we will enter into contracts with like PPAs, etc., or mining contracts with external clients. Definitely, the profit margin will increase.
So, what is the reception of local governments in the Central African region? So we have countries like the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Gabon. I mean, East Cameroon.
Cameroon.
Um, all of those countries. So, do you feel, since you've been on both sides, where you've been kind of a representative of foreign companies, and now you are going in as a Congolese trying to make investments, is the reception the same by governments, given that you're the one making the investment yourself?
Well, they want us to demonstrate our capabilities. That's all.
Mhm.
When we talk to the minister or any advisor within the government, what they do ask us is, do you guys have the technical capability? Do you guys have the financial resources to develop the project? We say yes, we do have the technical capabilities, we do have the financial resources. So once we convince them, then they sign the paperwork. They do the paperwork. They sign the decree or the license in order for us to work. That's what happened. We just obtained our independent power producer license because we have demonstrated our capabilities, both financial and technical.
And so, is that process always smooth? I'm sure you've heard, and I'm sure you've heard, stories, and like I've heard about, going into, especially in a region like Central Africa that does have a reputation for corruption. I, as a Cameroonian, have heard this firsthand from Cameroon entrepreneurs. Is Let's say you want to go in and establish a firm such as, Aries, in that region. What is kind of like the timeline, for someone who wants to go in for that? And what are some kind of
Okay.
challenges you expect along the
To
way?
to be honest, they've made significant strides when it comes to incorporate a company or obtaining a license. We didn't have to bribe anyone either to incorporate the company or to obtain the license. So, yes, the process was very smooth, even if you have to be patient because based on the law, it takes what, like 3 days to incorporate a company or 1 month to get a license. But the process can be lengthy. But we obtained all the paperwork that we did ask from the government, and no one did ask us for any bribe.
Wow, that's remarkable. And that's
Yeah,
in every country
I
that
have
you've
to be
worked in.
honest on that.
Okay, no, that's great. Um, I think that's very good to hear. Again, given the perception of that region, that you had that experience there. So, like, I want to talk about kind of your personal journey, like how you even got here, right? So we know what you're doing through Aries Investments and Aries Energy. Where did you grow up, first of all, and decide to return to the region to invest?
Okay, I was born in France in 1979, March 30. Today it's my birthday, by the way.
Oh, happy
Um,
birthday!
I'm celebrating my 47th birthday. So I was born in France and I lived there until I was 5 because my parents decided to return to their home country. So I lived in Brazzaville from 5 to 18, and then I returned back to France because my parents didn't want me to pursue my studies there. So I studied business law, and in 2006 I returned back to Congo because I had amazing job opportunities here in Congo. And then I came here, and I when I was coming back to my home country, I was already thinking about launching Aries investment. But I needed to learn the environment. So because I had lived abroad for quite a long time, and I
Mhm.
wanted to learn my environment. And I started working for I started working for an oil and gas companies called SNPC, where I was working as in-house legal officer. And then I joined the Central African State Development Bank, where I did work as a project finance officer. So we did finance uh, infrastructure project within the Central Africa region. And from that experience, I thought that it would be relevant for me to cross the line, become an advisor to assist our client within their fundraising projects or their investment project. Then in 2014, I resigned to set up Aries Investment. And since 2014, I've been working as a managing partner here at Aries Investment. And in 2023, we incorporated Aries Energy with the goal to develop power projects within the region.
And at what point did you realize that so you already had this kind of notion in mind even when you went to, you relocated back to Congo that you wanted to start Aries. But was there like a moment, even though you knew that, was there a moment that you went, "Oh my God, um, there's more to the Central African region in terms of opportunity than even I thought coming into it." Did you ever have that moment?
Well, yeah, when I came back in 2006, sorry. When I came back in 2006, I did realize that there were huge opportunities, especially in the oil and gas sector. In mining as well, the government had enacted laws enabling local investors to tap the resources that we do have in our soil. So I did realize that there were huge opportunities, and I saw that many Chinese, French, people from Turkey, etc., were coming to the country. So yes, and then it made me realize that there were a lot to do in this country, and we should get our piece of the cake as well.
And do you see what's kind of the entrepreneurial energy that you kind of feel in Congo Brazzaville and Republic of Congo and in the rest of Central Africa? Do you feel like there's this kind of awakening or renaissance happening in terms of entrepreneurism, or do you feel a little alone in kind of your entrepreneurial mindset in the region?
No, definitely there is kind of an awakening in the country or in Central Africa region because we do inspire many people here, and I was inspired as well by some entrepreneurs that I used to meet before. So yes, there is like a boom of entrepreneurship in the Central Africa region.
So, I was reading an article, and unfortunately, I cannot remember the name of the mining company, but it was in the DR Congo. This was recent, where they had closed the deal. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to. It's like a recent news story. I can find the name of the mining company in a minute, but there was a deal with a miner there to, I guess, mine for minerals in the DR Congo, and they just kind of and stopped the deal. Um, do you see a lot of kind of deals that fall through, um, especially when it comes to the mining industry? And why do you think those deals fall through? And why do you think these are the deals that don't fall through that go through make it? So what's kind of the difference between the most successful deals in the region and the ones that you see that kind of fall through and don't make it?
While we used to advise some mining client here and mining project, most of them are still ongoing, while some of them failed for many reasons. When you sign a contract with the government, you the as the mining company, you have your obligations, and the government has its obligation as well. And sometimes one of them doesn't respect its obligation, and then it makes the contract fall.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So most
and
of the
some
time.
and
Mhm,
sometimes then the government is forced to terminate the contract because one of the party did the mining company did not respect its obligation.
mhm. And so
It has
how do you ensure that you as a company that you don't fall into those traps, of one side not meeting its obligations or even you as your side? Like how do you ensure that your team is on track with meeting obligations so that such deals don't fall through? What's kind of the due diligence process you put in place?
you need to I think that's above the due deal that you have to carry out. You must have permanent dialogue between with the government. It's very critical to have this type of dialogue. You must be transparent when you are executing the project on the ground, and report to the government any difficulties, any hurdle that you may find on the ground, to make sure that you won't suffer from abusive decision.
And this may spark a debate, but you seem to have quite a bit of um I think the word is trust and faith in, how governments work in Central Africa. And I'm saying this as a Central African, right? And someone may watch this and go, no, 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 no. I'm not, I've, gone and tried, like I said, done business in Cameroon. And when I tried to approach the government about, things and had open communication, it kind of backfired on me. What is it like? What is kind of the magic? You almost like the government whisperer in Central Africa. What is the magic, like kind of that thing that people need to kind of understand to navigate those systems?
Well, I think that to navigate within the environment, it's very essential to have, uh, I would say, an excellent knowledge of the environment. First, you need to know the people. You need to know the people. You need to know how they think. We need to know what they want, and we need to know how they would behave. You know, you know what I mean. So you need to have a perfect understanding of the environment, I would say. That's
So
critical. You cannot come from the US to tomorrow or today and ask to meet the government. You need to be prepared. You need to have a local partner that will assist you with your discussion on the ground. That's very important. We entered into a partnership, I told you previously, with an oil and gas company based in Houston. We were our local partner, and I think that they would have failed if we were not there, because they're from the US. They don't know the environment. They used to work in a codified environment where all the laws are written. There are no unwritten rules, etc. But we did help them to navigate within through this environment, and the project is working. You see, so there are a lot of opportunities you can benefit from, provided that you have a perfect understanding of the environment. The environment, sorry.
no, I think that's a definitely a fair point, right? Having local partners when you're coming in as, a foreign entity coming into that market. But here's where I want to also kind of push on that, right? Okay, so for a foreign company, based in Houston, that's almost like a no-brainer, right? Getting a local partner in that market so that you can kind of enter the market smoothly. What about a diasporan like you and me, right? People who feel like they already know the market. They maybe grew up in one of those countries, in Cameroon and Congo, and maybe they've come and lived in the US and worked, but they feel like they at least have the cultural knowledge to enter those markets, right? Unlike a foreign company. Do they need that local partner, or is their culture?
Well, definitely you need a local partner, because you guys are set up as American. You live in the US, so you must be set up as a US citizen. You have the rules of the US. Your brain is working as a US brain. Then you need to have someone that understands the environment, the local environment. That's essential. Otherwise, you may escape some information. You may miss, sorry, some information.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very important to have someone who can translate
Hmm.
what's happening in the environment where you want to work.
So when you were coming back from France, or when you returned to Congo from France, how long did it take you to kind of feel confident in your ability or your knowledge as a local um
I mean, it took
investor?
me 20 years. 20 years. So I can help you to buy time by partnering with me.
So, on a serious note, though, and I really mean that. I mean, so you really felt like it took you almost 2 decades to feel like you had, sufficient knowledge of the market. Although you were obviously have cultural ties to Congo, you felt like it
Definitely, I can say
took
that.
years.
Definitely, I can say that it took me 20 years to have a perfect understanding of this country and the business environment. 20
Hmm.
years.
Wow.
Now I'm more confident. So I would someone that would like to invest in Congo, for example. If I know him, I can provide my assistance to help him navigate within this environment.
So on that note, in those 20 years, tell me about your biggest um investment success story and your biggest not so successful fail story that you learned from and what you learned from that.
We did. one of our biggest um, success, I would say. We assist the company in charge of the airports in 2016. They wanted to raise 27 million. We assist them successfully. We helped them complete the project. So this is our major success. And the major fair was the water project I did mention earlier, because it was a $50 million project, but we failed to come to fruition. I mean, because for many reasons, we could not execute properly this project, and we failed. So we learned the lesson, and now we are executing project. We know what to do and what to do.
So, what was the biggest lesson? If you, it's okay if you don't want to kind of explain why you think the water project failed, but what was the biggest lesson that you learned from that project, and how have you been able to apply it?
The lesson I learned is that we need to secure you need to secure your contract properly. Don't trust anyone
Mm.
with a word. You need to secure the contract and make sure that you are safely protected.
And what does that require? Legal counsel when creating
You
contracts?
need
Sure.
to, yes, for someone who want to invest in this country, it's critical to have a legal advisor, someone who's well aware of the law of the laws of the country, in order to navigate through the environment.
Mhm.
Definitely, and we failed to um, to protect ourselves with this contract.
No, that's something that we've heard in many regions of, of Africa about, making sure that you have the right people in place to ensure that your contracts are sound. Um, so now let's go back to our conversation. So we talked about mining, which is a huge part of, the Central African economy. What are two other sectors that you feel like people should really pay attention to when it comes to Central Africa?
I would say energy,
Energy is.
mining,
Mhm,
oil and gas,
mhm,
real estate,
mhm.
healthcare, education.
Okay. Let's talk about real estate because I don't, that's not, when I think of the region, I would say mining probably comes to mind as the first thing, but real estate is not something I've heard quite a bit coming out of Central Africa. What is special about the real estate market in Central Africa compared to other booming markets like in West Africa?
I would say that there are huge needs in the real estate sector.
Mhm,
The demand is growing, and there is a lack of offer. Someone in the diaspora who would like to come back to his home country will hardly find something matching its needs. You
mhm,
see, so there is a huge demand here, a luxury demand, and that's why I think that the next business should be real estate. I live in Brazzaville, you see, and in front of my office you see Kinshasa, which is a uh, 10 million people city, habitant city. I don't know how to say it, and so sometimes I forget my English, but you know what I
yeah.
you see
Tell
what
me,
I
a
mean.
population of 10 million. Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Population of 20 million,
20
right?
million. Mhm.
So yes, and the city of Kinshasa is huge. Imagine that if we had the proper offer here in Brazzaville, I- people from Kinshasa would live here and go to work in Kinshasa.
Wow. Yeah.
That's why I say that there is a huge opportunity in the real estate sector.
Wow, that's no, that's really interesting. So it's almost like a wide open market right now when it comes to real estate, right?
Exactly,
Opportunity to build real
exactly,
estate, even infrastructure to connect neighboring cities like Brazzaville and
exactly,
Kinshasa. Yeah. Wow,
exactly.
that's interesting. What about tourism? Is that a sector that you see governments in Central Africa prioritizing? Should it be a sector that they should prioritize at this time?
They say they want to prioritize the tourism sector. But I told you, I was in Tanzania last year,
Mhm.
and there is a huge gap between East African countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and our countries like Congo or Cameroon. No one knows about what's happening in Congo or Cameroon because there is no effort in order to promote the tourism sector.
Mhm.
I spent all my money there in Tanzania because I didn't have the choice. There, restaurant, everything to make sure that you won't left any dollar, you won't leave, sorry, any dollar there.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think if you had to pitch to someone in the diaspora, who's maybe considering, let's start with just a vacation. And they're considering different countries in Africa or different regions, right? So they're the usual suspects, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa. What would you tell them is attractive about any Central African country in terms of tourism?
What do I tell them? What's the best country to visit in Central Africa? You mean?
What's the best country and why? Like why should they come to Central Africa and spend their tourism dollars in Central Africa in any
I would
country?
say I
Mhm.
would say my Congo is the best country to visit
Okay.
because I haven't experienced being a tourist in Gabon or Cameroon or DRC.
Mhm.
People are friendly here. We have huge, beautiful touristic sites in this country, so the country is worth visiting.
And what is the touristic site that you think has the most promise in Congo Brazzaville that people often overlook?
Many sites. You have the Blue Lake,
Mhm.
not very far from Brazzaville. You
Mhm.
have the gorilla reserves,
Mhm.
100 kilometers away from Brazzaville. So yes, those are the main sites that comes to my mind when it comes to uh, tourism.
And what about let's talk about a little bit about the language barrier. Obviously, diasporans living in France and other French-speaking countries in the West don't have that issue, but um, Anglophone diasporans, as you know, are really focusing on the market. So um, how accommodating are Central African countries, or at least in Congo, are to people who are not native French speakers?
Definitely, you need to learn French, at least basic words, because no one here would respond to you in English. No one, definitely. But
Really?
you know what? I was in Tanzania. No one was able to understand my French. So, and when you go to Tanzania, they speak to you in Swahili first
Uh-huh,
before
uh-huh,
switching to English.
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
They didn't care whether I was from an English country, an English speaking country, or French speaking country. They speak to you in Swahili, and
Mhm,
they can switch in English. That's all.
mhm,
So I think that I had to. Well, I speak English, so that was not an issue. But for
uh-huh,
someone who cannot speak English, that could be an issue because they won't translate or they won't make any effort to
mhm.
speak to speak French or the language that you're used to.
Do you feel that could be a hindrance for someone coming from, the Anglophone diaspora who wants to do business? Mhm,
Definitely. They need to. We have Nigerian partners. They do speak English. They don't speak single word of French, but because we're there, they are more comfortable. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the decision to come to the country because they don't speak the language.
yeah.
It's a major hurdle, I think. The language barrier.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I agree. As someone who's somewhat bilingual, even in Cameroon, like I'm from Anglophone speaking Cameroon, Anglophone French, English speaking Cameroon. If I cross over and I go to French speaking Cameroon, which is where the capital and the major commercial city of Douala are, sometimes I have to I can't navigate without, pulling into my French bag and speaking as much French as possible. There was a time when I actually thought about moving back to Cameroon to go work, but because I'm Anglophone Cameroonian, every place I went to in Douala or Yaoundé, they told me if you don't speak French, you can't like so even to, as a diaspora and trying to go back to Cameroon, I faced the same issue where people were not as accommodating if you were not fully bilingual. Um,
Definitely, that's not the problem.
yeah. Yeah. So but that's understandable. So let's talk about now. We're gonna play a game of kind of like what ifs, right? Thinking forward for the future of Central Africa. So I'll just ask you a few things and you just fill in the blanks. So it'll be like in X amount of years, Central Africa will be the what of the world. And you just fill in the blank. You repeat the sentence and fill in the blank of the sentence.
Yeah.
So in 20 years, Central Africa will be the what of Africa?
The last investment frontier in Africa,
Oh, okay.
and the most um, profitable investment uh, frontier in Africa.
Okay, that's a pretty bold goal. Um, why do you think the most profitable at that time? Is it because Central Africans will work to make it happen, or you feel there's something there that will give it an advantage over other regions in Africa?
Definitely, the region is endowed with huge mineral resources that are currently required by countries like China, the US, and European countries. We are shifting to the energy transition, requiring some of the natural resources that we do have, especially in GRC. So that's why I think that we will be the most profitable investment frontier within the 10 years.
So let's do some specific countries because Central Africa is it's a pretty big region, right? Just uh, DR DR Congo alone can like take maybe 80% of the entire region. So let's go country. Let's just take a three or four countries out of the region. So in 20 years, let's start with your country. So we'll go first with the Republic of Congo. The Republic of Congo will be the what of Africa?
Wow. Will be um, the main gate of investment in Central Africa.
Wow. And I'm guessing you're saying that because of its geographic position.
Exactly. The country has a bold infrastructure program, and yes, and I think that within 20 years will be the main gate of investment in Africa, in Central Africa.
Wow. Okay. So let's go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, your neighbor. So in 20 years, the Democratic Republic of Congo will be the what of Africa?
um, will be in 20 years. Um, DRC will be the main supplier of the world um, when it comes to mineral resources like copper, cobalt, etc.
Awesome. And
DRC
this
will fuel the economic growth in Africa.
wow. Okay. That's a pretty big goal. Now let me ask this: since we're talking about the mineral resources of the DR Congo, do you think the bulk of that wealth will come from exporting these minerals, or is there some other step that needs to be taken? Because currently, right, those minerals have been available and have been, available in the country for decades now. What will be the change in how they are sold, or that would make them more profitable for the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Um, the government in DRC is well aware that in order to be more profitable, the mineral resources must be processed locally.
Mhm,
That's our main challenge.
mhm.
And Aliko Dangote from Nigeria already paved the way because he has built the largest refinery, I would say, in the world. Aliko Dangote, sorry,
And
is our role model, and I think that he's a trailblazer, and and many other entrepreneurs will do the same by processing the mineral resources that the countries are endowed with.
do you want to do one more country, or I'll let you pick like, which country in the region you'd like to do?
So I would say that Gabon, our neighbor,
All right, Gabon.
um, will be the most visited country within the 10 years because they do have national parks, and the country aims to promote tourism there. And I think that Gabon is likely to be the most visited country in Central Africa.
Yeah, I definitely see that for Gabon because if I think of countries in Central Africa, I'd say Gabon is the one that I've seen most in the social media space, primarily because of celebrity power,
Mhm.
life of Ludacris, who's created this kind of media frenzy around Gabon
Exactly.
and things like that. So they have really strong cultural brand ambassadors, I think, out there. So I can definitely see it that in 10 years it could become like this kind of tourism hub in Central Africa. Awesome. And then now I ask you about, Aries Energy. In 10 years, Aries Energy will be the what of the energy sector?
Um, the leading energy provider
Mhm.
uh, within the country.
Within the country of Republic of
Yep.
Congo. And do you plan to expand out of it beyond Central Africa, or do you
Yes.
that's
Yes, we are planning to expand beyond our country, but we
Mhm,
need to build a success story before
mhm.
thinking expansion. Thinking
That
about expansion.
makes sense completely. So this has been great. So we can do a fun one before we go. The biggest musical artist, we should say, um, that will that people are overlooking in the Central African region right now is who? Like, who do you think the next kind of big star coming out of the region from a music standpoint would be?
Well, to be honest, I'm not good at that game. Um, the biggest artist. Um, that's a good question. I need to think about it twice.
You don't listen to music. I'm telling you, I can tell you're not in music,
No, because I do listen to artists from Nigeria.
you listen to well, isn't that interesting? So you import your music taste is imported from Nigeria.
Well, because I like what they're doing, so I like listening to them. So
Yeah. No, that makes
the
sense.
the biggest the biggest one I think is here in Central Africa, or the most famous is Fali Pupa.
It's probably yes. Probably is the
Yes.
biggest at this point. And I think there's some younger artists coming up. I think Enos, right? Enos B is from DR Congo, if I remember correctly. If you know,
Inos B maybe.
yes,
There is one from DRC whose name is Inos B.
yes.
He's very famous here,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what he's doing. Sometimes I heard some of his songs,
Mm-hmm.
but I cannot bet on him. So
Yeah. No,
I'm
that
kind of
that
old school. I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. I understand. I'm old school as well, but I'm still like I'm a music lover, so I try to keep up with kind of what's happening. And I think there's also space for like artists like, Fali and even, Kofi Olomide, who's a little bit older, to become these
Yeah.
cultural ambassadors of the region. I think musically they've done pretty well, but I think like the Nigerian artists have mastered is also leveraging their platform to become cultural ambassadors of their respective of their country. And I feel that artists like Fali and, Kofi could make, I think, in my opinion, a stronger effort to become cultural ambassadors of the DR Congo if we just start there.
I think Fali is doing an amazing work.
Mhm,
He's done concerts in Europe, sold out
mhm.
concert in Europe. So he's a pretty good ambassador. He's already an ambassador.
Oh, you feel he's already ambassador? Yeah, and yeah, he is. I think through the kind of work that he's doing. I've been to a Fali concert here in the U.S. and he is a great ambassador. But I feel like he could get more credit. I mean, when you think of like Davido and
Yeah,
Fali
of
been
course.
around a lot longer than Davido, Wizkid, or Burna Boy combined, probably before they were even born. So I feel like there's a lot more credit due to him, and he could get a lot more recognition as an artist than he gets. Well, awesome. I also know that you have a book, Loic. So if you want to tell us about this book that you have and where we can, what it's about and where our viewers can find it.
Well, yes, indeed. I did release a book in December. My book is about resilience. It's my personal and professional journey through the years. where I explain, where I tell my story. I was born in France. I grew up in Congo, and I had to leave the country because of the civil war, etc. And we went to France to study business law, and then returned to my country. I
Mhm.
explained uh, how it is to come back to the country, to your home country, all the challenges, the hardship, etc., that I had to encounter during my journey.
Mhm.
It's also a message of hope
Mhm.
because we've achieved uh, great success with Aries investment, and I wanted to share how it's possible to develop a business, a successful business in a country like Congo.
Yeah.
And the
No,
book
that's
is available on Amazon.
awesome. Awesome. So on Amazon, we can catch that book. I don't think we got to talk enough about that personal part of your journey, and right? You leaving because of the Civil War, and what that experience was like leaving at a time of like political turmoil in Congo Brazzaville in Republic of
When I
Congo.
left my country, I was 18.
Hmm.
And I remember that my father told me not to turn back my head, and I had to stand tall. And he wanted me to shut down my brain and to focus on the present and the future.
Wow. And how did that feel? Did you feel in your heart when you heard that you would come back one day, or did you kind of heed that, take that advice and you went to France with the full understanding that you were not coming back, or that you would.
At the time, I didn't want to come back, to be
Mm.
honest. At the time, I didn't want to come back. But my parents were very persuasive and optimistic, and they encouraged me to follow my dreams. At the time, I was already thinking about Aries investment, and they encouraged me to fulfill my dream, and I don't regret it. 20 years after,
Yeah.
that's the best decision I've ever made.
No, that's a pretty inspiring story. So I look forward. I think I'm going to order the book myself and read this full story. And we thank you again for coming on Black and Borderless and sharing your story. This is pretty inspiring, and we love the work that you're doing in the region. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak in English to the diaspora. That's my first time, and I look forward to doing it again. Because we need to reunite Africa. There is only one Africa, not the French speaking or the English speaking. There is just one Africa, and we must be able to talk to each other. And if I can be that bridge, then I would be very happy to come back and talk to you and share my experiences, etc.
No, this is awesome. I think there almost needs to be a part two, because now the story that you're sharing in this book, I feel like is also an episode just in and of itself, right? This kind of resilience that you're talking about that you feel.
Definitely, you need to read it.
Yes, no, I'm gonna read it, and then we're gonna have you back on, and we're gonna just base that discussion on the book alone.
I'm available. Let me know.